From Dayton, Ohio's Montgomery County Jail, where not one, but two prisoners were pepper sprayed while restrained in chairs.
I can't breathe, help me.
To Pike County, where a deputy pepper sprayed and punched a prisoner in a restraint chair. To here in Hamilton County, where an inmate who suffered from sickle cell anemia died while strapped into a chair.
It makes no sense.
A growing number of people are now speaking out against the restraint chair itself, a device that completely immobilizes inmates by strapping in their arms, legs, and torso. Those speaking out include attorneys.
The jail gave him a death sentence.
An international human rights group.
So you want them banned at prisons and at jails across the U.S.?
Exactly.
And families.
And I'm left with a horrible memory on what they did to my son down there.
Lisa Britt's son, Tommy, was hooked on heroin and began to steal to pay for his addiction.
He hated that he became who he was.
Tommy was convicted of burglary in 2015. A year later, he was on probation when police stopped him for a traffic violation on Ronald Reagan Highway.
He violated his probation.
By not going seeing his probation officer.
Tommy was arrested and booked on October 26, 2016, here at the Hamilton County Justice Center, where jail and medical records reveal he began suffering from and was treated for heroin withdrawal. Lisa was relieved that her son was off the streets and would get medical help for his addiction.
As bad as that sounds, yeah, I feared for the, possibility, of him coming up dead.
But medical records would later reveal Tommy was dying, not directly from the heroin, but from a hidden infection called endocarditis, caused by bacteria that's injected through the needles of addicts, which attacks the heart. Antibiotics and surgery could have saved him, but no one, not even Tommy, knew he was suffering from this deadly condition.
Having trouble breathing, and he felt like he was going to pass out.
According to court records, on October 31st, 2016, at around 7:15 p.m., Tommy called for help and was found unresponsive on his cell floor. After resuscitating him, Tommy had trouble standing, but a nurse determined there was no medical condition, that Tommy was simply detoxing. That's when a sergeant, along with the nursing staff at the jail, ordered Tommy to be placed in the restraint chair.
Why would they do that to him? He got treated like a prisoner at war for asking for help.
Jail and medical staff say he was placed in the chair for his own safety and to prevent him from committing any acts of self-harm. Tommy remained in that chair for 2 to 3 hours. When he was removed, he was placed on suicide watch, where he was monitored, but according to court records, it appears that his vitals were not taken. At 6 in the morning on November 2nd, Tommy was found in his cell disoriented, with what appeared to be vomit and urine on the floor, and an extremely elevated pulse of 165. A nurse made the call to send Tommy to UC Medical Center. This is security camera video at the jail, showing Tommy being escorted to an ambulance. It would be among the last images of Tommy alive.
I got a call from the doctor at university telling me I better get up there. My son's probably not going to make it.
According to medical and court records, the endocarditis had damaged his heart valves, destroyed his aortic valve, and caused him to have a stroke. On November 22, 2016, Tommy went into multi-system organ failure and died. He was only 23 years old.
I can't even sleep at night thinking that my son was down there begging for his life.
Lisa believes her son could have been saved if he had gotten better medical attention and not been placed in that restraint chair.
And he got strapped to a chair for punishment. I can't get over that.
Her then attorney, now Judge Jennifer Branch, agreed and filed this wrongful death lawsuit in U.S. District Court, claiming deliberate indifference, negligence, and medical malpractice.
Every human being has the right to live. The jail gave him a death sentence.
But late last month, a federal judge issued this summary judgment, throwing out Lisa's lawsuit, ruling there is no evidence the staff subjectively knew Britt was suffering from anything other than heroin withdrawal, noting the claim that placing Tommy in the restraint chair was punitive had no factual basis and was consistent with written policy. Lisa disagrees with the decision.
There's no way that nobody should be treated like that.
Lisa now visits her son here at St. Joseph's Cemetery in Price Hill,
And he knows I'm fighting.
promising to continue the fight against a chair that restrained her son when he needed help the most.
He knows I loved him with all my heart. He knows that. He was my boy.
Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News. Pierre Howell died alone, strapped into a restraint chair, just like this one, in a cell at the Hamilton County Justice Center.
He was thrown away in a cell. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible tragedy.
So tragic, attorney Ryan McGraw says Pierre's family can't talk about it.
They're just not ready to grapple with that.
McGraw, who represents the family, filed this wrongful death lawsuit in federal court, claiming the Hamilton County Sheriff and staff were deliberately indifferent in Pierre's care.
Both the jailers and the nursing staff.
To understand what happened, you have to look inside the jail. And because we obtained security video, part of the evidence filed in the case, we can show you. According to jail records, on December 9th, 2018 at 5 p.m., Pierre got into a physical altercation with his cellmate. In the video, you can see officers escorting Pierre out of the pod after that fight. At 5:06 p.m., Pierre is led down a hallway, and he begins to repeatedly collapse. Eventually, officers drag him to an elevator, throw him in a wheelchair, and take him, with his feet dragging on the floor, to the medical unit. That's important because Pierre suffered from sickle cell disease, a chronic, debilitating, and painful condition triggered by stress. Jail staff knew that. According to the lawsuit, 2 days before he died, Pierre reported he was experiencing pain arising out of his sickle cell disease. In the medical unit, the overhead camera shows a wide view, but when we zoom in, the video clearly reveals Pierre repeatedly slumping and falling to the floor. While there's no sound on these recordings, in statements, jail and medical staff confirm Pierre was yelling, moaning, and groaning in pain. According to the lawsuit, the nurse in charge knew that Pierre had sickle cell disease, yet she felt Pierre was experiencing a mental health issue and was being non-compliant with medical care. And the call was made to get the restraint chair. That's the restraint chair being rolled in as Pierre lies on the floor in pain. Within minutes, 8 corrections officers surround Pierre, picking him up and strapping him in, immobilizing his body. Now helpless, Pierre is rolled out of medical at 5:43 p.m. and taken to Cell 6 in Pod A in the psychiatric unit. According to court records, Pierre would remain in that restraint chair alone in Cell 6 for more than 4 hours. Corrections officers reported in official logs that they conducted required routine checks on Pierre. But the security video reveals more than a dozen of those checks did not happen.
He was supposed to be evaluated every 10 minutes.
Was he?
Absolutely not. In fact, they falsified records claiming that they checked on him.
In its motion for summary judgment, the county insists there was no wrongful death and no deliberate indifference. But the county admits those official logs are wrong, stating officers checked on Howell, but not every 10 minutes as documented on their logs, conceding that is a violation of jail policy. When officers actually observed Pierre, he was noted to be awake for the first hour and 45 minutes. Then they reported Howell appeared to be sleeping. At 9:45, when officers went into Cell 6 to remove Pierre from the restraint chair, he was already dead. An autopsy by the Hamilton County Coroner's Office concluded Pierre died from organ failure due to a sickle cell crisis following a physical altercation. He was 33 years old.
He died alone in a cell, strapped to a chair where he couldn't move.
Absolutely. It makes no sense to us as to why he was ever put in the chair based on his condition.
Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News. From repeated punches in Pike County
I will say it was disturbing.
to pepper spraying prisoners in Dayton
I can't breathe. Help me.
to the death of an inmate at the Hamilton County Justice Center. Allegations of abuse and brutality involving the restraint chair, a device that immobilizes inmates at jails across Ohio and around the country, have horrified and stunned families who learned their loved ones were restrained in a chair.
Why would they do that to him?
Hamilton County's new sheriff is asking questions too.
You have concerns about it.
Well, of course.
Charmaine McGuffey, a 33-year veteran, was in charge of the Hamilton County Justice Center for 4 years. In 2017, she says she lost her job after complaining about excessive use of force inside the jail.
When I was the major, I brought those concerns to the table. I was very serious about it, and it's no secret that I was fired.
McGuffey filed this federal lawsuit in 2018, claiming sex discrimination, retaliation, and wrongful discharge. The county strongly disagreed with all the allegations, stating McGuffey's dismissal was justified. In December, the case was settled, and the county paid McGuffey $215,000.
There's a new sheriff in town.
McGuffey's victory was historic. Winning on a platform of reforming the jail, Charmaine McGuffey was sworn in on January 4th as Ohio's first female and openly LGBTQ sheriff in Ohio. At her new desk, Sheriff McGuffey says she's going to keep her promise of reform, including how and when the restraint chair is used.
It's been a focus of our attention because we are reviewing reports.
I've been reviewing reports too. After filing an open records request in December, I received this, a detailed printout of every time the restraint chair has been used at the jail. After sorting and calculating, I found in 5 years, from 2016 to 2021, inmates at the Hamilton County Justice Center were strapped into the restraint chair 3,221 times. That's an average of almost twice a day, every day. I showed Sheriff McGuffey what I discovered.
Can you, as the sheriff, say that every time it was used the way it was supposed to be used?
Well, I certainly can't comment on any of the instances that I don't have any specific knowledge of.
The sheriff wouldn't comment on lawsuits involving the restraint chair either, including this wrongful death suit filed in federal court by the family of Pierre Howell, a 33-year-old Cincinnati man who was discovered dead in a restraint chair he had been strapped in for 4 hours. In our interview, the sheriff would only say the policy for using the restraint chair will change.
We should be able to recraft that policy.
So rein it in a little bit.
Well, we're going to change it a little bit.
Amnesty International, a group that fights for human rights around the world, says tweaking a policy doesn't go far enough.
There's other means in which they can achieve the same law enforcement objective that don't amount to cruel and inhuman degrading treatment or torture or even death.
So you're calling for a ban?
Exactly.
But banning these chairs isn't likely, even for a newly elected sheriff who promises to reform the rules but not eliminate the use of the restraint chair.
There's all kinds of restraints, obviously, in the jail system. I mean, it's what we use.
Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News.